This is part 3 of Rendezvous with Ray. At the end of the part 2, we learned that Satyajit Ray's screenplay was missing and he knew who the culprit, that stole the manuscript of Charulata screenplay. And when Roberge asked him, Satyajit Ray said that he did not want to take any action because he did not want to hurt the reputation. And this incident clearly showed how kind Satyajit Ray was. Now let's proceed from there. Let me read this out. Like Rabindranath Tagore, Ray strode his time like a colossus. Roberge writes, "It is as if all Bengal was in Manikda. The rich and the poor, the powerful and the humble, the peasants and the city persons, children, teenagers, adults, and old people, men and women." Philosophically too, Roberge feels that Ray took off where Tagore signed out. If one compares the last major prose piece by Tagore, Shabhyatar Sankat, Crisis of Civilization, which he wrote at the beginning of the Second World War, which contains his immortal dictum that in spite of what was happening, it would be a sin to lose faith in man, and the last 3 films of Ray, Ganashatru, Shaka Prashaka, and Agantak, the analogy becomes clear. Now here, look at the word strode. This word strode is the past tense of the word stride, S-T-R-I-D-E. Stride, strode, stridden. And in this context, we can take it to mean lead, L-E-A-D. Actually, it means to walk or to move. Here, we can take it as lead, L-E-A-D, lead or spend. Here, colossus is a statue that is much bigger than life size, and it can also mean a person or thing of enormous size or enormous importance, and great size or great ability. Now here 2 people are compared, Rabindranath Tagore and Satyajit Ray. This word colossus actually comes from the Colossus of Rhodes from ancient Greek. It's actually a statue of the Greek sun god Helios erected in the city of Rhodes or set up in the city of Rhodes. Here in this context, Roberge mentions that Satyajit Ray led an important life as a famous director, just like Tagore led his life as a poet, dramatist, essayist, and painter. This is a comparison, a physical comparison, based on how they led their lives. Now, Roberge also says, it is as if all Bengal was in Manikda. Why does Roberge think that all Bengal was in Manikda? It's because Manikda, Satyajit Ray used all types of people, all sections of people in the society in his films. Like there were rich characters, poor people, powerful people and humble people. There were peasants, farmers and city people, children, teenagers, adults, everyone. Every section of the society was used in his films. And that was why Roberge said this about Satyajit Ray. And if you look at philosophical comparison between these two, it's not physical comparison. There is nothing that we can prove really, but we can think in philosophical terms. If you think about these 2 people, this is what we have. Roberge thinks that Ray took off where Tagore signed out. Look at this phrasal verb, take off. Here, took off is used in past tense. Took off here means started. Satyajit Ray started where Tagore signed out. Signed out means here ended. So, Tagore ended and Satyajit Ray started. What does this mean? What did Tagore stop? What did Satyajit Ray start? Tagore was a poet, essayist, dramatist, and painter. Now, as a poet, painter, essayist, and dramatist, Tagore did some work, amazing pieces of work. And he passed away, and as a result, Tagore could not continue because he was no more. He was not alive. And Satyajit Ray continued Tagore's work. But this is a philosophical comparison. Actually, Tagore and Satyajit Ray were not contemporary people. They were not the people who lived in the same age. So Tagore was way older than Satyajit Ray. They never met, but it looked like what Tagore was writing in his pieces of work, in his pieces of literature, was continued in the form of films by Satyajit Ray. Okay, if you look at what Rabindranath Tagore wrote at the beginning of the Second World War and Satyajit Ray's last three films, Ganashatru, Shaka Prashaka, Agantuk, the analogy becomes clear. Here, analogy is similarity or comparison. There is a clear comparison between the last three films of Satyajit Ray and Rabindranath Tagore's major prose writing called Shabhyatar Sankat. Now, in this Shabhyatar Sankat, Rabindranath Tagore says this, that in spite of what was happening, it would be a sin to lose faith in man. So, in spite of what was happening, it would be a sin to lose faith in man. Look at this word sin. Sin is an offense against God or against a religious or moral law. Now, people were really becoming bad, especially young people were becoming bad, but it does not mean that we should hate them. If you hate them, that is going to be sin. So this is the meaning of the words said by Rabindranath Tagore. Now this is true in any age. Like this was true when he said that, and this is true even now, and this will be true in future as well. Because not trusting people or losing faith in people is a sin. It's an offense against God, or it's an offense against natural law of the universe. And what Satyajit Ray said in the last three films was almost the same as what Rabindranath Tagore said in his Shabhyatar Sankat. That is how the comparison between, or the similarity between both these works is very clear. Let's move on to the next part. In these three films, Ray was at his most personal, and when some critics saw the films as didactic and verbose, he felt deeply hurt. For in these last films, Satyajit was directly talking to us, conveying his personal message on society and civilization. If the impulse that motivated his earlier films was aesthetics, in the last three it was self-expression. And there we were denying him his right to speak. As the saying goes, no one is a prophet in his own country, said Roberge. An agnostic throughout his life, it is possible Roberge feels that in the face of death, Ray was searching for an answer. This was suggested by some of the music that he used in the movie Shaka Prashaka. We have already learnt that detractors are critics. We have a direct word here, critic. A person who expresses opinions about the good and bad qualities of books, music, etc. So critic. Now, people who criticized Satyajit Ray thought that the last three films made by Satyajit Ray were didactic and verbose. What were the last three films? Shaka Prashaka, Ganashatru, Agantuk. Now, they thought that these films were didactic. Look at this word didactic. Designed to teach people something, especially a moral lesson. They thought that these three films were made only to teach moral values to people. And that was ridiculous. They thought it was not necessary. And they also thought that these three films were verbose, using or containing more words than needed. They thought that the characters in the films were using more words than necessary. And it means it was a complaint against those three films. They thought the films were didactic and verbose. And Ray was deeply hurt because of these comments. And in the last three films, what actually happened was Satyajit Ray was directly talking to us through his characters in the film. He was trying to convey his message. Convey means make ideas or feelings known to somebody. Convey means here to reveal or to express. He was trying to express his personal message on society and civilization. Let's just get back to Rabindranath Tagore's work, Shabhyatar Sankat. Now in the Shabhyatar Sankat, he was talking about crisis of civilization and society. And Satyajit Ray was also talking about the same thing here in his three films. That was why the three films were compared to Shabhyatar Sankat. If the impulse that motivated his earlier films was aesthetics, in the last three it was self-expression. Look at this here, impulse. Impulse is a sudden strong wish or desire to do something, or a desire to do something, or a need to do something. Now here, what motivated Satyajit Ray in the beginning of his film career was aesthetics. It means, look at this here, the branch of philosophy that studies the principles of beauty, and especially something that motivated in his earlier films was aesthetics. It means he was trying to show beauty in one form or the other. Like if he was making a film on poverty, he wanted to show the beauty of poverty. That's it. It's all about presenting something in a beautiful way. That was what he was motivated by in his early film career. And in the last three films, the motivation was different. It was self-expression. He was not trying to present things beautifully, but he was trying to express himself. He was trying to say what he wanted to say. And there we were denying him his right to speak. We know that everybody has right to speak. But look at this word, denying. So denying means saying that something is not true and something is not correct. Now here we means here critics. Critics are Indian people. Indian people said that he had no right to speak, because they all criticized, saying that the films were didactic and verbose. That is why Roberge says, as the saying goes, as the proverb goes, no one is a prophet in his own country. Prophet has a different meaning here. It's not Prophet Muhammad, it's a person who teaches or supports a new idea, theory, etc. Here Satyajit Ray, he was trying to express his ideas on society and civilization, and we were criticizing him for that. No prophet is considered to be a great person in his own country. Now the meaning is, in simple terms, the meaning is this: no great person is respected in his own country, or no great thing is respected in the place it is born. That's why this man Satyajit Ray was not recognized in India, but he was recognized internationally. An agnostic throughout his life, it is possible, Roberge feels that in the face of death he was searching for an answer. Agnostic is a person who believes that it is not possible to know whether God exists or not. He was in dilemma, he was in confusion. He did not know whether God exists or not. And look at this here. Roberge thinks that Ray was looking for an answer to his question. And what was the question? The question was, does God exist? Is it possible to know the existence of God? That was the question, and he was trying to look for an answer. How did Roberge come to know about this fact? Look at this here. The music that Satyajit Ray used for the film Shaka Prashaka suggested this. So from the music, Roberge understood that Ray was in such mood. He was actually looking for an answer to his question. Does God exist? Or is it possible to know the existence of God? The last time the two friends met, Ray was in hospital on his deathbed. It was a Sunday, and Roberge, true to habit, arrived on the dot at 9 a.m. He had grown so weak that he looked frail as a child. I did not stay long, and as I was leaving, Manikda said, "Bhalo laglo." It was nice. Those were his last words to me, said Roberge. Now, we already talked about that unspoken arrangement between them. They met at 9 a.m. at Ray's residence every Sunday. So true to habit means, as was the habit, according to the habit that Roberge maintained, he arrived at Ray's residence, Ray's house, on the dot. On the dot means here exactly on time, at 9 a.m. And Ray looked very frail. Frail means here very weak and delicate. He looked very weak, like a child. And he did not stay there. And as he was leaving, again Satyajit Ray said "Bhalo laglo" in Bengali. In English, it means it was nice. And these were the last words that Ray said to Roberge. Okay, let's move on to the next paragraph. One important fallout of this friendship was the establishment of Chitrabani, a communication and film institute the first of its kind in West Bengal, which Roberge founded in 1970, and to which Ray, as a token of friendship, lent his name as a co-founder. Ray was in the first governing body and after a few terms readily agreed to be the Institute's advisor. Roberge arranged most of the initial funding from Canadian agencies. I had no reservations applying for them, for I feel richer countries in the West are indebted to countries like India, he said. So we have learnt that they had a very good friendship for 22 years. And there were many things that happened as a result of their friendship. One important result, look at this word fallout. Fallout is a result. Now, one important result of this friendship was the establishment of Chitrabani. That's a communication and film institute. In Bengali language, it is pronounced Chitrabani. In Telugu, it can be Chitravani. Now, the first of its kind in West Bengal. It means here there was no institute like this before this was established. Roberge founded in 1970. This founded is different from find, found. So founded. It means here established in 1970. And as a token of their friendship, Ray asked Roberge to use his name as a co-founder. You know, the real founder is Gaston Roberge, and Ray, as a token of friendship, as a symbol of their friendship, asked Roberge to use his name as co-founder. It was because Roberge was not known to many people, and Satyajit Ray was already an established filmmaker. So that way he could get some positive advantage for the institute, Chitrabani Institute. And Ray was in the first governing body meeting. You know, governing body meeting is a meeting of an organization where the members of the committee sit together and then make decisions. And Ray was there in the meetings. And after a few terms or a few meetings, Ray readily agreed to be the institute's advisor. Later, he became advisor. First, co-founder and then advisor. And where do you think Roberge got money for this establishment of Chitrabani? He arranged most of the initial funding. So, initial funding from Canadian agencies. Let's look at that. Initial means at the beginning. So, at the beginning, he got funds. Funds mean here money for a particular purpose. Now, for this Chitrabani Institute, he got money from some Canadian agencies. Some Canadian organizations or companies. And he said, look at this here, I had no reservations applying for them. Now, what are reservations? See here, when somebody helps us, we naturally try to help them back. That's what we call giving reservations to those people. And as Canadian agencies helped in the establishment of Chitrabani, Gaston Roberge naturally had to do something for them. But he said he did not need to do anything for them. He did not have any reservations for them. Look at this here. What is the explanation? What is the reason given by him? He said, for. For means because. Because I feel, means I think richer countries in the West are indebted to countries like India. So look at this here, indebted. Here B is silent, indebted. Indebted to somebody for something. It means grateful or thankful to somebody for helping you. Now, the Western countries, Roberge says that the Western countries are always indebted to us. They should always be thankful to us because India is promoting such rich culture. Even though the Western countries keep on helping us, they are going to be indebted forever because India is promoting such rich culture. Okay, let's move on to the last paragraph. For 26 years, Roberge was the director of Chitrabani, and under him, the institute not only produced important documentary features, but also became breeding ground for local talent for filmmaking. Let's look at the words here. There are 3 words here. The first one, documentary. That's actually giving a record of or report on the facts about something. It's like a short film, which gives a report on the facts about something, especially by using pictures, recordings, and with the involvement of people. Now, the Chitrabani Institute. Now, the Institute, Chitrabani, made many documentary feature films, and it also became a breeding ground for local talent for filmmaking. Now, here, breeding ground is a place or situation that favors the development of or occurrence of something. It means a breeding ground helps somebody or something. For example, if you take mosquitoes as example, when there is rain and then there is a stagnation of water, water does not move and it stays there, it stagnates in a place. What happens is it becomes a perfect place for mosquitoes to grow, to breed and grow in number. And here mosquitoes and breeding has nothing to do here, but I just gave you an example here. Here Chitrabani became a perfect platform for local talented youth in filmmaking. So many young people came there to Chitrabani and then they were trained in filmmaking. That is how Chitrabani helped many people. That is the end of this lesson, Rendezvous with Ray. I hope you have enjoyed watching, listening to me. Thank you very much for watching. And if you have liked this, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. That will encourage me to make more videos. Thank you very much. I'll see you in my next video.